Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking all about the Sony A7IV. Now, this is a camera I have been waiting on ever since I picked up the Sony FX3. That is my main daily driver camera, but I am in need of a camera that is a little bit more photo dominant. And for me specifically, having a camera like the Sony A7IV, I think will be a perfect addition. So we're starting to see some more and more leaks about this camera, and it's got me excited, I gotta be honest. And also another fellow YouTuber and also a fellow Ohio guy, Terry Warfield, he actually put out a video of this, and it kind of inspired me to give my own little updates on these rumors and also to talk about my wish list that I hope will be coming to the Sony A7IV here hopefully later this fall. I'll be sure to link his video down in the description below. So the first rumor that we're seeing here is that it's going to be a 33 megapixel sensor, which to me is the perfect amount for the A7 line. Now, in case you are maybe newer to Sony, or honestly it's kind of confusing, so I'll try to explain it here briefly. In the Sony A7 line, there's kind of three different lanes, okay? We have the A7R line, which is higher megapixel, usually the photo dominant camera, but it's also pretty decent at video. Then on the opposite side of things, we have the Sony A7S line. That's usually the very video dominant camera that's also decent at photography as well. And then we have the camera, which is right in the middle, the Sony A7 line. So that's what the A7IV is going to be part of. That camera is usually pretty good at photo and pretty good at video, which to me is what makes it the perfect B camera to the Sony FX3, and it would just be plenty megapixels. The 33 would be plenty for me in any kind of professional photo work that I'm doing on the side. 33 megapixels is plenty for prints, it's plenty for digital, it's plenty for clients, and it's also not gigantic file sizes like a 50, 60, 70 megapixel camera. So 33 seems like a perfect sweet spot, and yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, next up here, we're seeing that it's going to have 5.5 stops of IBIS along with active stabilization, which I believe that's an improvement even from the Sony A7S3. You guys will have to let me know in the comments below if that is correct. But Sony's kind of in an interesting spot with IBIS. Usually their cameras have IBIS, but it's not crazy strong. So it gives you some benefit, but also it kind of avoids like the wobble issues that you have, especially on the video side of things, like cameras like the Canon R5 had, because it had such a strong IBIS. But a strong IBIS also helps out your photography, especially if you're doing handheld stuff when you don't have too much light. So 5.5 stops of IBIS sounds like it's going to be a pretty good amount, but we'll have to get one in our hands and kind of test it out and see for ourselves. So next up, we're seeing that it's going to have 4K up to 60 frames per second, and then full HD up to 240 frames per second. Honestly, I don't really ever use anything more than 120 frames per second. And if I'm being honest, usually 60 frames per second is enough. So as long as the Sony A7IV has 4K in 24 frames, 30 frames per second, and 60 frames per second, I will be happy. I don't think there's any way they're gonna put 4K 120 in the A7IV. I think that would make kind of the Sony A7S3 and FX3 somewhat obsolete. So I don't think they'll be doing that. And along with the 33 megapixels, you might run into some overheating issues when you're shooting those really high frame rates. So that's pretty much all the confirmed, unconfirmed rumors that we know about the Sony A7IV so far, but I have put together a little wish list of things that I expect to see with the camera and things that I hope to see out of the camera as well. The one is S-Cinetone. I hope it comes to the Sony A7IV. I just love the way it looks. It's super easy to color grade, it's fast, it just looks good, and it's way easier to deal with than like S-Log2 or S-Log3. So I hope S-Cinetone makes its way to the Sony A7IV as well. Now, next up, it has to have a flip out screen, and it's not just for people that vlog and do YouTube. Honestly, if you're doing photography, shooting up high, shooting down low, or especially outside and you're trying to avoid some sunlight, the flip out screen is just perfect for photography and video needs. So honestly, Sony has to put the flip out screen in this camera. I think it would be a huge miss if they don't. Next up, to go along with that 4K 60 frames per second that we were talking about earlier, I hope that we get that 10-bit color as well. Again, we might run into some of the overheating issues if you're talking about a higher bit rate along with that higher megapixel count that is 33. So we'll see, but I'm very hopeful. I hope we get 10-bit color up to 60 frames per second. So fingers crossed on that one. Also, I hope we get these newer menus that came out with the Sony A7 III and the FX3. They're so much better than the old Sony menus. It's just not even comparable. And then last but not least, I hope we don't run into overheating issues. I don't really think there's any way we have to worry about overheating with Sony because Canon got so much backlash with the Canon R5 and just all those cameras. I think any camera company moving forward, at least the next few years, is going to avoid overheating as much as physically possible. But when you do avoid that, sometimes it does limit your camera, especially if it does have higher megapixels. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. I mean, asking for 33 megapixels for photo, also be able to shoot 4K up to 60 frames per second, 10-bit color, and to not have any overheating is kind of a lot to ask for, but if anyone can do it, I think Sony is, so we'll see. And if I had to give a nice little guess or estimate about the pricing of what I think the Sony A7 IV would be, and based off of what the Sony A7 III was, I think this camera will somewhere land around the $2,500 mark. Now, maybe that's too low for what I'm asking for out of this camera, but this kind of seems like a little bit of a lower tier camera. It's not a specialized camera for photo or video, but it's still a really, really great camera that you can do professional work for, or it can be a great B camera. This camera is just going to be so versatile. I think they need to really kind of get this price right and get it in as many people's hands as they possibly can. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot that there is a rumor that these cameras are going to come out in October, but some of that is affected by the chip shortage going on in the world right now. So we'll see, but I wouldn't be surprised if these hit the market sometime before the holiday. So yeah, guys, those are really my thoughts on the Sony A7 IV. Like I said, I am stoked for this camera. I definitely plan on picking it up, especially if these rumors end up being true. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of these rumors on the Sony A7 IV. Do you think they're crazy? Do you think they're not enough? I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. But guys, that's going to be it for me in today's video. Be sure you're subscribed to the channel if you want to see any future content on the Sony A7 IV. And while you're down there, drop this video a thumbs up as well. But guys, that's going to be it for me. I hope you enjoyed watching today's video, and I will catch you in the next one very, very soon. Peace, guys.